Hi folks, I'm getting ready to go up to the post office and mail this paperwork that I was given to Mr. Vera. Also, I got to take this phone back and see, since he lied to me, he clearly told me that the battery comes out of this phone and it doesn't. So I'm going to see how he deals with me this morning. So I want to make these last two videos. I'm going to break it up in two parts because I think it might take a while. If it doesn't take long, I will put it all together in one video. But I want to start off how my experience at that Ingalls Hospital. Number one, you saw what he took me in. I said I was going in for evaluation, but they told me to turn my phone off and told me to take my clothes, everything off. Now, if you're just going in for evaluation, you shouldn't have to strip. So I knew they were going to keep me, regardless of what the people, those men in the ambulance said, the paramedics said. Also, I think I mentioned while I was in the hospital, they restrained me and gave me some medication that I didn't want to take twice. The first time they restrained me and gave me medication, said this for my blood pressure, it's for my own good, and I have to take it. I've never heard of anyone restraining you to give you blood pressure medication. And then the second time they said they had to give me medication was to calm me down. Now, I wasn't loud. I wasn't agitated because I knew they were going to go through their changes. So there was no reason for me to be agitated. I just felt that I had a right to refuse medications if I wanted to. And they said I had none. So both times they gave me medications that was really supposed to do me harm, because after a while they came back and they kept checking on me like, she's still alive. That's how good God is. So I wasn't worried about anything, like I said, about whatever they were doing to me physically. But the doctor came in and he asked me some questions, and he said, well, I feel you're all right. He said, I'll tell the nurse, she'll come here, this person, I'll see her name, I'll show you her name later. She'll come in and ask you some questions, and then they'll release you. So she came in, she asked him some questions, and then I say, well, how long you got to keep me here? Oh, you'll be ready to leave in a few minutes. Give them the time to drop the paperwork. So about an hour later, they hadn't drawn up. And then they said, well, we're going to take you to your room. I said, well, what? To my room where you're going to be admitted. I said, well, why would I be admitted? And the doctor just told me that I was fine. So I said, I need to talk to the doctor. The doctor never came back and talked to me. So they went and admitted me. And then when I told the doctor, I said, I need to talk to you. And he said, just a minute. And he never came back. So they took me up to the ward for supposed to be used for the older adults with mental problems. And that is when they showed me the paperwork of why they were admitting me, because they said I had said that I was not eating and people were poisoning me and I was delusional and that I was living in the woods. Now, I asked for that paperwork later for them to show me where it says I was living in the woods. And that paper, even though I seen it twice, the admitting nurse, they admitted me, told me that the paperwork, she showed me the paperwork, said I was living in the woods. And later on, I asked one of the nurses, can I see the reasons that I'm still here? And she said, well, you need to be something, whatever she said, because you were living in the woods. We can't let you leave here because you have nowhere to go. They try to use it like they use the excuse, well, I have nowhere to put my things, why I can't have my things. But you have nowhere to go, so we got to keep you here. But it was written on this paper. It was attached to this paper. Now, when I asked for that paper when I left, now I wrote the page 1 to 6 because that's from my facts. But as you read here, it says, please see attached document. And you can tell that it was something attached to it because when she made the copy, there's the staple thing. But when she gave it to me, this was the only copy she gave me. She said that other copy that was written out that I was living in the wood doesn't exist. These people are so stupid. They think that they can give you anything. And it says right here, see attached document. What happened to that document? Really? But I went through a whole lot of changes, and I wanted paperwork. I wanted documents, because I can always find the flaws in the paperwork they give me. So, another thing I want to note it on here, it says that the police will call on patient due to living in abandoned building, delusional and paranoid. It said the police will call to abandoned building, living in abandoned building. Police will call non-medication compliant with supportive daughters. Now, you know, in the past, I've told you over and over again how my daughter and them try to have me committed with the help of the police. Non-compliant medication, whatever it is, something about response, and high blood pressure. I don't have high blood pressure. They use that ploy over and over again to get people admitted into the hospital. They say, oh, well, like they did in the video, oh, well, even if you're right, let's take you to the hospital to check up on that blood pressure. Oh, this blood pressure can kill you. You really need to be admitted into the hospital. They did me like that before. But I wasn't going to fall for that ploy again for them to just take me anyway. That's why in the video that I showed you, no matter how many times they released me, they still wind up taking me when I wanted to get back in my house. Now, I continue to ask them over and over again, why am I still here? After day for evaluation number 1, oh, it won't be but a couple of days. Then day 3 and 4, I asked, why am I still here? Now, they never told me the length of time that I was supposed to be there, what it take for me to get out of there. So after day 4, I talked. Now, I have to go through the books to show you the other part, but I want to mention it now. I talked to the social worker who's supposed to see you there about your discharge, and the doctor's supposed to be able to discharge me. And at the day 4, when they hadn't discharged me, I told the doctor, I said, now you know you're holding me here illegally, Dr. Sayad. Now, number 1, Dr. Sayad wouldn't discuss with me anything about discharging me, and he doubled the doses of my medication, he said. So, on the 4th day, when I told him, you hold me here illegally, he told me, well, don't mention his name. He told me keep his name out of it. Now, is that something for a doctor to say? So, when the social worker came, I told her that I had been there and they're holding me illegal. And then she say, oh, we can hold you for... No, what she said was somebody else, the nurse told me that they could hold me for 5 days. That was the average stay, from 3 to 5 days. So I told the social worker, now what she did, she pissed me off, because she was supposed to see me the first day I was there, and all of a sudden she disappeared. The second day, she said she would see me, and then she disappeared again. So another time, I said, now what's going on with this social worker? Why she's supposed to see me and discuss discharge procedures with me, and she's avoiding me. So right after that, they told me she would be in that day, and she said, oh, something came up the day she was supposed to see me. Oh, something came up, and I couldn't see you, but I talked to you today. So that's when I told her that they were holding me there illegally. And she told me, she said, no, we're not holding you illegally because we have a emergency, what they call it, emergency petition for involuntary admission, involuntary judicial admission. So they said they went to court and had me admitted involuntarily. And I told her, I said, I want to see the paperwork. You showed me the paperwork where y'all went to court and had me admitted involuntarily. She never came back again. So she said, I'll see you later. And when I saw her the next time, I said, well, why did you tell me you was coming to see me and I was supposed to get this paperwork? And you never showed up. So, she told me that since they had this paperwork, they could hold me for 10 days. Now, I told her that the nurse said 5 days. Now, she told me 10 days. But I really had to call. They have a place where you call for grievances in the building, the patient advocates. And I called her, I think, 3 days in a row. And nobody got back to me. She would not get back to me. She would not call me back. So what I did was I called administration. I wanted to see why I wasn't getting any information. Nobody was telling me the correct time I'm supposed to be held and why I didn't receive the paperwork showing that I was sent there by the court. So when the part of the administration came up, now she came up in a hurry. She did come up in a hurry. And when she came up, I said, why am I not seeing any paperwork? So she said, I'll provide the paperwork to you. And that's when I got this. Now look at this paperwork. They said they took me to court and they filed the paperwork and I was being held by the court system. But as you notice, there's no court, no district, the Cook County, but what district court was it in? What circuit court was it in? There's no docket number. Only thing they filled in was I was being held involuntarily. But how could you go to court when there's no courtroom, no docket, no case number? And so they just made this up and filled in involuntary in Ingalls Memorial Hospital. And my name and number and that stuff. Now this is page 1 of 5. Page 2. A person with mental illness who because of his illness is unable to provide for her basic and physical needs. Now if you've seen that video, you know there was nothing wrong with me. I was truly in my right mind. A person who is mental, who because of her illness is reasonably expected, unless treated as an inpatient patient, to engage in conduct placing herself or another in physical harmful or reasonable expectation of being physically harmed. As you seen on that video again, I was not harming myself and I was not going to harm anyone else. A need of immediate hospitalization for prevention of such harm. Really. Now, as you know, like I said on the video, y'all saw the video. I wound up they took the people in the ambulance to me to the hospital. I wasn't under any stress like that. Okay, now this patient is a 66-year-old African American female presenting delusions. Now, what delusions did I have? Only thing you heard me say on the video is I was going to go in that basement and turn on my water. Delusions and paranoia. Patient has a history of schizophrenia and has been non-compliant for months. Really? How did they get that? Patient has a poor history and had a lack of insight into her precipitating events. Collateral was given by patient's daughter. And again, my daughter hasn't seen me in months, hasn't talked to me in months. And we don't get along. So, and that's another thing. My daughter did show up. Hi, my ex-husband. And what they said was, like everybody else, why are you tearing up Miss Lavera's house? And you need to leave them things. Leave my things again. You don't have no place to put those things. You just need a place to stay. Where are you going to go? And if you're going somewhere, where are you going to put them things? Again, it's about all my items. It's about all the storage that I have. So I told her, I said, well, what do you mean I told Lavera's house? Well, I looked at the videos on your YouTube. And you guys know, if you see the videos on my YouTube, you know all the videos I show of the damage Mr. Beer has done, of the repairs that she need to do. So I told my daughter, I said, well, number one, who called you? You must be on speed dial. I said, how did the police keep calling you and you knew? Well, the bureau called me. Isn't that something? She said, the bureau called me. First, the bureau called her, and then the police called her. Isn't that something? And then my daughter called me a squatter. Her and my ex-husband called me a squatter. And I told them to get the hell out of there. I don't need nobody that's working against me. I don't need nobody. You can't be family if you're doing everything. You're working with a person that's trying to harm me, who's turned my water off. And you've seen stuff. I know you've seen stuff that's in the water. And she called you. And you and she came and told the people in the hospital that I was not taking my medication. And that it came from her that I was living in the woods. And I asked her, I said, how could you say that? And what she told me was, well, if you was taking your medication, when the police came there, you had time to prove to them, you could have showed them about it, you had time to prove to them that you was. Really? That I could have proved to them that? So it's telling me right there, she didn't know whether I was taking medication or not. But she let that told them I was not taking medication. She let that out of her mouth. I told her, like I said, told her, number one, why would the bureau call you? And I say, why are you doing this? Why are you my enemy? Because she told me, she said, I don't trust you. I don't believe anything you say. You lie all the time. Really? I told her and my husband to get out of there. Get the hell out of there. I don't need them. Because number one, why did you come here, tell them people I was not taking medication? You haven't seen me in months. Why would LaVera call you? Again, LaVera's in the mix. So, patient's daughter, who states I'm currently living in an abandoned building without running water and heat. Patient has a deal with the landlord. I've never had a deal with LaVera. And they're allowing her to live there. Really? Really? Patient has a deal with the landlord, and they are allowing her to live there. Isn't that something? That LaVera, after all this stuff, she's allowing me to live there? Wow. Patient is currently unable to care for herself due to her increasing delusions and paranoia. Well, I'm not going to justify that. But this is the person who the doctor told me would come in, talk to her, and she would release me. She asked me some questions, and when I answered the questions, she wrote a whole entirely different thing. She said that I was not eating, and that I was, let me see, can I find it here right quick? I had a deal with the landlord. Oh, patient is not eating because she believes people are trying to poison her and that people are out to get her. Now, you guys know up until they shut down my phone, I was making videos about cooking each and every day. In fact, when they sent me and eating every day, I had ate good that previous night before they cut my water off. And if you know, that day on the video, I told them I was cooking then when they shut my water down. So if I'm cooking, you know I'm eating. So for them to put this blatant lie on there that I said I'm not eating because I felt I was being poisoned, really. But this is the person who made that statement, who clearly, I told her I was eating, I was fine, I was having no problem, and she came back with this, that I wasn't eating, I was delusional and paranoid. Now, again, this is how I know Miss Avera's hand is in this, because as for my mother's information, my contact, it has Ollie Williams. Now, it sounded familiar when I finally did get this paperwork. And I called that number. And that number is for Ollie Williams is my dead aunt's friend, who she's also deceased. And the only person who knows this Ollie Williams is Miss Nelson. Nobody in my family knows Miss Williams. No one, not even my daughter. When I call the number, this is Mrs. Williams deceased. This is Miss Williams' daughter, who's a friend of Vera. Now, who is a friend of Vera. Now, not even my daughter, as I said, knows this woman. And she made a big mistake, because if my daughter had signed me in, my daughter would have knew my mom's name. She didn't knew my mom, and at least she'd have put something in here, information about mother information, because my daughter knows her grandmother. She knew who her grandmother was, so she didn't supply this information. This is Miss Nelson's friend, Miss Ollie's daughter's number. Okay. Now, this is another big lie, because as said up front on that other paperwork, that the police were called, and police were called due to living in an abandoned building. Now, on the video, you see Mr. Davis, their son, called her because I was going to break that lock and get me some water. But it says the police were involved. It says the police came and they were involved. But on this paperwork, when it says, clearly says, hold on. Yes. Huh? Tell her I'm making a video. I'll be out there as soon as I'm done. When it says one certificate of examination is attached, and I guess that's that paperwork that disappeared. But it said, did a peace officer, and that's the police officer, detain respondent, take him or her into custody, or transfer him to a mental health facility? And they said no. No officer, no peace officer was involved. Now, how is that possible? Because on the video, you could see that officer came up and grabbed me. So, the officer did detain me. So, they can't say no. It says here, no officer information. As you see, no officer information. No officer information, no officer was involved. But, again, it says here that the police were called. But here, again, no officers were involved. They can't have it both ways. Okay. Now, this is the paperwork that's supposed to be attached to the petition for involuntary judicial admission, with Miss Kathy again signed. This lady that lied all the way around the board, and whatever information I told her, she lied about that. But it says here that before they could sign me a court, time and date of admission, they left that out. Miss Kathy signed her name here, and it says that I have the right been brought to a facility on the basis of this petition alone. So they can take this paperwork and write it up and just keep me there if they lie. So they lied and they kept me there on the basis of this paperwork. And that's crazy. What person can lie on some paperwork and have you admitted? Okay, and let me see what else. At the time you were certified, the copy was given. They never gave me any copy at the time that you have been certified. You were admitted to a facility, and the copy of the petition and certificate will be filed with the court. A copy of the petition will also be given to you. They never gave me any paperwork. What I wanted to note is, it says that the court may require proof that involuntary emission is in your best interest and in the public interest. So if I wasn't a harm to myself or any others, why was it that I had to be detained immediately? But I'm looking for the part where it says I have the right to request a jury. Number one, I never knew I needed to be in court. I have a right to be represented by an attorney. They never told me that they could do this. That I had a right to be present in the court hearing. Really? So they had a court hearing without me having the chance to ask for a jury or attorney or even being present. So they did this mock petition for involuntary judicial admission without a court, without me having an attorney, without me asking for a jury, and without me being there. Isn't that something? Well, I'm going to end this and see what my cousin wants, and I'll, no, let me finish this out, because it's 26 minutes. I want to finish this out, so I won't have to come back to this. But while I was at the hospital, as I told you, they forced me to take medications that I didn't want. That doctor, Dr. Sayad, prescribed me medications, didn't tell me what they were. Let me go over what I wrote. This is my poncho. They wouldn't, I showed you this last night in the video for TIs. They would not, it was cold in there, and they would not let me have this poncho because they said it had strings on it. And I asked them, they said, well, the strings were too long. Look at this poncho. I said, what can I do? Wrap this? They said, well, people have hung them. Really? I said, so what can I do? Wrap this around my finger and hang my finger? Really? So, even administration, nobody would allow me to have my poncho to keep warm. Another problem I had was when I got there, as you know, they brought me, I was out of my house in just a gown and a robe and my poncho. That's all I had on. Because I had went out earlier to get me some water at the backyard when I noticed the water was off. I had my poncho on. But they would not let me have my poncho. And my clothes, like my gown and my robe, they said they washed them. At first they said they would wash them the next day. And then they said the day after that the washer was busy, that the people in the other unit had to use the washer and they had loads. And then the third day they told me that the washer was broke. So the whole time I was there at that hospital, I wound out washing my things on my hand. Even the little footage they gave me, what kind of hospital is this? That I was there for 9 days and they did not have a washing machine for me to have clean clothes. As I said, I wound up washing them things out on my hand, wringing them out in a towel to dry them, and hanging them up in my hospital room. Like I said, they wouldn't let me have a poncho. The worker was lying, as I told you. They did not tell me what my rights were. They weren't forthcoming with telling me my rights. Another thing they did, they would not allow me to have any salt. Now I take a lot of salt because salt is good from your system, and it helps detox you. So they put me on a no salt diet. They gave me the wrong meds. What they did was, after I had seen Dr. Sayad, that Saturday, I think I went there at Tuesday, but that Saturday, I was going to lay down, and all of a sudden I started stumbling. I felt dizzy. So the next day I asked the nurse what was that medication she gave me. And she said Dr. Sayad had doubled my dose of the medication. Now, number one, you're a nurse. Why didn't you tell me that the doctor had doubled the medication? And number two, this was Saturday. When did he do it? He had to call it in because he didn't come in Saturday. So that means that he had to call you guys and tell y'all to change the dose of my medication. And he had to do it without telling me. Because like I said, he switched it. He told me he was going to do it once. They switched it up to 60 milligrams. And then the next time, when I didn't tell me, it went up to 80, the highest milligram you can possibly take. So how do you give me medication without notifying me you changing the dosage of my medication? Well, she said, well, this what doctor said I'd order. So Sunday when he came in, I said, well, how did you develop my medication? I said, number one, it makes me dizzy, and I could fall and injure myself. So he said, well, that'll be on him if I do. So I told him I wanted him to lower the dosage, and he told me no. He told me if I didn't want that dosage of medication, to stop taking it. Now, that would have been convenient for them, wouldn't it? For them to say, well, she has stopped taking the medication that we have prescribed for her. He told me no, he was not going to lower the dosage. If I hurt myself, that it'd just be on him. Wow. So, I'm trying to run over everything right quick. He didn't tell me about the change. And so they also broke the HIPAA law. Miss Rivera called me. Now, you know, nobody is supposed to reach you in a mental hospital, in mental hospital, because the HIPAA law says that you have to give your permission for anybody to know you're there and to have contact to you. But Mr. Rivera called me. Isn't that something? And they discussed that she told them that she wanted me to come get my things out of their apartment, and at a certain time, and whatever it was, they weren't supposed to be talking to Miss Nelson, were they? So I told her, I said, well, why are you discussing my business with Miss Nelson? And why did she call me? Why has she had to? I didn't give her permission. I didn't give anybody permission, not even my daughter or my ex-husband, to talk to me. But they kept letting these people call me. Now, the thing was, they had told me they were going to release me after the 6th day. And then I called Mrs. Vera and told her that I was being released. I wanted to get into the department to get some things. That's when all of a sudden, a few minutes later, my daughter called and wanted to talk to me. So again, Miss Nelson called my daughter. And then a day later, my ex-husband called me and wanted to talk to me. And I told him, no, I don't want to speak to either one of them. But how can these people call me and ask anything? They weren't supposed to even know I was there. You understand what I'm saying? The HIPAA law says unless you give any person permission, these hospitals cannot give them information, not even say whether you're there or not. So they broke the HIPAA laws. They were putting things in my food there. And as I said, they weren't giving me any of the paperwork regarding treatment, recommendations, meds, release. So I called the demur unit. And I found that the patients that were there had fake names. So this is a unit that they set up where it was so crazy. Where the patients there were people, some homeless people that they just picked up, and they knew them, and they picked them up off the street, or they knew who they were, and they went and brought them to that unit in the ambulance. Because one of the ladies was feeling, I think, bad about what was happening to me, and I was talking to her, and they had her to snap on me, and when I talked to her and I let her know who I was, she apologized, and she kind of started liking me. So something was happening, and I was trying to talk to her, and all of a sudden, you can see she wanted to cry. I know she felt bad for me. And she went up front and she told them that she wanted to get out of there. She told them to don't come pick her up no more, to take her home. That she's going to call her daughter and tell her daughter, don't let her come anymore. Do not pick her up anymore and bring her, that she wanted to get out of there. And as I said, I found out later that a lot of names weren't their real names. And as I said, they were putting things in my phone. I was requesting that I get apple cider, a little cup of apple cider vinegar with my meals. It got to the point where all of a sudden, my little apple cider vinegar container was turned over where it was wasted on my tray, or it was missing altogether, and I would call the kitchen, or my food was messed up, and they would not bring me a tray. I was supposed to have breakfast 9 o'clock that morning. Something was wrong. Can't remember what it was. But by 12 o'clock that evening, I still hadn't gotten a new tray or the apple cider vinegar. So, I was complaining all the time. As I said, the social worker lied. After I complained, now one of the guys who was working in the kitchen, I clearly knew that he was one that was doing most of the things for my food, contaminating my food and stuff like that. I would get sick sometime from eating my food. And this is another thing that happened. I went in weighing like 140 pounds. And I documented all this while I was in there. I went in 1.317, and I weighed about 140. 2 days later, I was down to 134 and a half pounds. No, 2 days later I was down to 137.6 pounds. And then the last time, that's another thing they wouldn't do. They didn't take my weight at the emergency room when I was admitted, and I had to ask them to let me find out what my weight was, because I felt with the food I was taking something was wrong. So in the days I was there, I think I lost. I went down to 133 pounds in 9 days. So I went from 140, and that should have been 140. I went down from 140 to 133. So I lost almost a pound a day with what they were giving me. And then since I had complained, this is what was on my card one day, on my tray one day. Get well soon. Thinking of you, Ingalls Memorial Auxiliary. And then I put down there because I called the guy who was doing it. I called him BBB. I ain't gonna tell you what that's for. But I said, this me and this you. And I'll be around a long time. Because I don't care what they do. They're not gonna destroy who I am. What I did was I looked at the rights in the older adults handbook. And it stated earlier, forced to eat food with no salt, and salt is part of the human diet. And I put down that Kim was in this program in 2015, and I was able to bring her food. She was able to have different things, and they wouldn't allow me to eat anything but what they were giving me. Nobody, even if I had somebody to bring me food, nobody could bring me food. You couldn't have a phone. Like I said, I couldn't wash my things since I was here. And the roles of staff, no treatment team, no nurses design program. In fact, didn't give me a copy of any paperwork. Keeps lying to me. Can't see a discharge planner or behavioral health tech. Doctors saw one med. Oh, that's another thing. That's another story though. It's too long. No head. The doctor did examine. He wasn't not really a doctor. He didn't give me a real like I'm used to doctors giving me examination. And the handbook, Phil Grieves' patient's advocate Kate McNally was the person that I called to try to find out why my food was continually being contaminated and why I wasn't getting any food at all. And one day, I was on the phone trying to find somebody to talk to about what was going on, and it was lunchtime. And everybody, they put all the trays on the tables, and when they put the trays on the table, everybody is in the dining room. So I get off the phone. I'm the only one not in the dining room. I get off the phone. I go to my tray, and my banana is missing. Somebody has eaten my banana and thrown peel back on my tray. Now, there's about 7 people sitting around this table. Now, all of them supposed to be patients and staff, but nobody knows who ate my banana and threw that banana peel back on the tray. One of the ladies there said the staff did it, but I wasn't going to argue about it. I just thought it amazing that 7 people could be sitting around that table and nobody know who ate that banana. So no paperwork, no where is the court order, because like I said they had the court order, but they wouldn't give me any paperwork. Then they had lied about them not having any salt in the building. One of the guys accidentally, like I tell you, these were people they had already arranged to be there. So I'm not the only one to do this. This has to be a unit where they do this all the time, where they get people there and they obviously poison them or give them stuff that they shouldn't be giving them. This is a setup. This system is set up, like I said, Mr. Vera and them have these systems set up in hospitals and mental hospitals and regular hospitals, probably all across the country, where they're killing people or just holding them. But like I said, they said didn't have salt in the whole building, and the guy wind up with a packet of salt on his tray. That's too funny. I wrote that them saying don't have no salt, and they wouldn't even give me crackers with salt. But they said they had no salt in the buildings, and he wind up with a tray with crackers on it. Like I said, he put a lot of poison in my system. My skin turned black again, like it did when I was in my house when Mr. Vera was throwing something on my carpet. In my water and food, they had said the color changed. When leaving, taking pictures of my feet. I had my phone, but remember they don't allow you to have your phone. So, and as I always said, God is in control. So I wasn't worried about anything that they were doing. And it looked like these people were coming in here. They were letting these old women come in. It looked like they were beating on me. I don't know. That's another story too. There was a woman there, and I tell you they had fake names. And her name was Verdell. And that's devil spelled backwards. Her name is devil. But she spelled it backwards, so she called herself Verdell. There's a copy of the petition about her. It's not legal. I wrote all that. Okay. Yeah. Let me see if there's anything else I need to go over before I shut this down. Being poisoned people. Okay. Oh, what I did make was, I don't understand how, if you tell someone you're being poisoned, why do you have to be crazy? They want to act like people, and that's what this is about. Why would you have to be crazy to say that you're being poisoned? That you need to be admitted? All the evidence shows clearly that I was being poisoned. Even the videos I did before I was admitted to that hospital showed that something was going on. Because even when the police came to my house and I showed them the color of my feet and the color of my skin, that there's something going on. And they say you have to be crazy because you're saying you'll be poisoned, like people have never been poisoned before. So that's what I'm saying, going on these hospitals. If I've said it's important, that's why I wrote this. Why would you not test to see if there's any toxins? They used to test you and see if there's any toxins in your system, whether there's any poisons in you or not. All right, well. Oh. I was laughing at them because I still say, see how God works. Because that's when I saw the paperwork they had Miss Lavera's name on it. I'll send on my phone. Okay. Is there anything else I want to go on? I had to call the police on this hospital because they still were holding me illegal, because I saw the paperwork that showed that they just had no judicial reason to hold me. So they shouldn't have been holding me at all. So I called the police and told the police, but they did. They said, we'll have our officer on the way. And of course, I never heard from those officers. Now, I was in the back, and the officers might have came, but they talked to whoever the staff up front, and I guess they left, even if they shows. I'm not sure for that. But that wasn't supposed to happen either, because if they came and talked to the staff at the hospital, this is what I wrote. um, since they're holding me illegally, and I called 911, and I'm going to use because keeps the 911 dispatch said an officer was on the way. Guess what happened? No one showed. That's not supposed to happen. Remember the case of Jeffrey Dahmer. Now, you people that, especially in Chicago, know that Jeffrey Dahmer killed all of them, those young men and those boys here in the Chicago area. And one of the young men got away. And the police saw him and took him back to the apartment where he said there was a head in the refrigerator. And then he went to the police and he told the police, he said, this guy is killing people and he trying to kill me. And the police didn't believe him. The police, I guess he thought he was insane. He was just making stuff up. So they took him back to Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment. And Jeffrey Dahmer told the officers that the boy had problems, that he was problematic, he had problems. And they left that young man in the hands of Jeffrey Dahmer. And Jeffrey Dahmer killed him like he did all the other young men. They found that young man's body, parts of his body later. He did have heads and stuff in the refrigerator. And they said parts of his body later. And these officers lost their jobs. Guess who told the story about what happened? What the officer did, Jeffrey Dahmer. He told that one of his victims that he killed, the police officers had brought him back to the apartment. So police were supposed to investigate and talk to victims. So that's what I was saying. Those police officers lost their jobs because they took that young man back. They didn't investigate. They didn't look around that house like they were supposed to, because that young man said there was a head in the refrigerator, and that head was still in that refrigerator, and they did not investigate. So those officers lost their job, and they supposed to have been, since that time on, the Chicago police, the Illinois police are supposed to investigate when they get an emergency call, that investigate and talk to the person. So even if they came to the hospital and talked to the staff, they didn't talk to me, which is what they were supposed to do to make sure that I was fine. Well, I'm going to end this right now, and and one thing before I end this. As I said, I called it the murder unit. They finally released me, but I wrote that, but they did not release me. They told my brothers and them to come, and then they told them they couldn't come. They told me it was too late. They made a lot of excuses why. And I put again, God is in control. And they had another lady there. I'm not going to show her name on this, but they were holding her the same way they held me, and they kept her medicated. And God had spoke to me and told me to tell her that she is his beloved. It's a young white, well, she's not the young white lady. And they kept her where she was confused and she didn't know what she was doing. But I knew they were doing her the same way they were doing me. But me and her would talk, and all of a sudden they stopped giving her so much medication to keep her doped up where she wasn't coherent, where she can wake up. So I had a long talk with her about things that she needed to get out, because I felt that her people had her there like the same way my people had me there. So God had touched me in so many different ways, because while I was there, I read my Bible. I was reading my Bible all the time, and they permitted me to they gave me this Bible itself. This is from the Gordon, who has the Gordon Wyman Hospital. And as you notice, it only has the New Testament. And I don't know why they do that now, only put the New Testament in the book. They don't want you to compare the New Testament with the Old Testament. But, because this book is big enough to have both books in it. But I read it every day, because as I said, no matter what you do, God always works through them to do what he wants done. And I was reading the Bible, like I told you in the video about, the Bible told me about the pine linen, the cotton that I used to help drown out some of the signals, the energy weapon signals. Well, I was reading it, and God gives me messages sometimes, and he tells me, he lets me say things, and then it shows up later when I'm reading the Bible where my harassers can see it. Or sometimes he doesn't tell me in advance, because he doesn't want us walking and giving us a roadmap. He wants us to go through him on faith alone, to deal with him by faith, not because we're not supposed to go by sight. We're supposed to believe that everything's going to be all right. So all the time I was there, I had not lost my faith. I knew that he would work things out, that I would come out of there unscathed, even though I knew they were trying to kill me. And then I read, and as I said, they watched me all the time, and they would go get my book and read what's in my book and everything. And as I said, in the Bible it said that you would be taken where you don't want to go, and they would dress you in what they want. And it also said that you would be there for 10 days. Now, they did. It happened exactly the way he said it was going to happen. They took me to a place I didn't want to go, and that was to Ingalls Hospital. They dressed me the way they wanted to dress. They clothed me because I was in that hospital gown. And as I said, they would not let me wash my clothes, so I was just in the hospital gown when I couldn't wash what I had on my hands. And they held me. Now, the thing was, they didn't actually hold me for 10 days. And like they said, they know everything that's happening. So when they were holding me, I was acting like I wanted to get out of there. But I was resigned to stay there for 10 days. But they knew I was. So on the 9th day, I was trying to stay to 10 days. And they knew what I had read in the Bible. And they didn't want me there. They didn't want that prophecy to come true. So they made sure they got me out of there on the 9th day. So I don't know how this is going to work, since God said they were going to hold me 10 days. But as I said, I had taken video of what had happened at the house when the police came and took me to the hospital and put me in an apartment legally. And as you see, they thought they wouldn't let me have my phone, so my phone was locked up all the time. And once I got to my brother's house, once they did release me, I looked at my phone, and my SIM cards are missing. But they also, this is how stupid they are, and this is how good God is. They also tried to destroy the phone so I couldn't use the SIM cards, and it wouldn't work. But what they did, they left the original SD card in there, but they broke it where, I don't know if you can see it good. They broke this where it goes in there. But I took something and I bent it back and I made it work again. That's how I'm able to show you the videos that I have on the cards, because I was able to break it, fix it back. But as you see, it's all bent up. The SIM card's gone, but they left the SD card. So God worked it out anyway. And I called the hospital when I got home and told them that they had broken my phone. They had tore it up. They denied it. But guys, I'm going to let you go because it's almost an hour. And I'm going to record this and see what my cousin wants. And then I'm going to make one more video and then I'm going to get out of here. All right, you guys, I love you. Stay prayerful. Keep praying for me. I'll pray for you. And be prepared, be informed, and whatever I say. Love you. Bye-bye.